Hi, everybody. Welcome to AITA Pod. I'm Danny Vega, joined today by a very special guest. She's one of my favorite people. I welcome Kate to the show. Kate, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Why is Kate one of my favorite people, you ask? Well, she edits all the TikToks for the show. It's so much work. And she's also a brilliant medical student. Kate, you're killing it. Are you busy all the time?
Well, not all the time. I have some free time, in between classes and stuff right now.
What do you do in your free time? In between classes. That's your example of free time. So 7 minutes that normal people spend walking. What do you do for fun? Because I feel like you do a lot of work for me and you're in freaking medical school. What's your fun?
I'm actually going paintballing with some of my friends today. So that'll be fun.
That's crazy. You're just so great. I don't know. You never complain. You take so many notes. I give you 4 million TikTok notes. But like you also have like a really interesting, I think fair to say, unusual sort of past. Can we talk a little bit about your parental situation?
Yeah. So my mom, really wanted to have a kid and wasn't, in a relationship. So
yeah.
She was a single mom by choice and had me through like a sperm donor, not totally anonymous. So I grew up like as an only child, just like with me and my mom.
And it's just so odd because I think single women is like that's like a situation single mother situation people feel like they don't want to be in, but your mom said fuck it right up, I don't need nobody, and you got no problems with this. This was a good way to go.
No, I don't know. I don't really understand, I guess, the whole negative connotation with it because it was always like a positive in my life. I don't know. Me and my mom have a great relationship. Like she, is a strong person, doesn't need help from some man. Like she has a good job. She is independent.
Do you think that's part of it, that she has a good job? So there was never any economic issue with this situation?
Well, she's kind of an interesting person. She didn't really know what she wanted to do in school, and so she ended up getting into the nursing department. And then she didn't really want to be a nurse for forever, and so she went to law school after she graduated with her bachelor's. And so, I don't know, education was always something that was important growing up, but she worked as a nurse, but for a really long time before I was born and when I was a baby. And then once she would work as a nurse all night, and then we would take naps together during the day. And once I as a baby stopped taking naps, then my mom was like, we can't do this anymore. And so she switched jobs to work in research at the hospital. And so she works a lot with HIPAA and stuff and making sure that research trials are following all the right legal rules. So kind of a mix of that nursing and law stuff. And all those jobs are, more of a 9-to-5 thing. So when I was in school, she would be in work. Yeah. Available.
Yeah. Interesting. So, and then I'm just curious here, and we might have to edit this part out, but you're a lesbian, but you work with me, so you don't hate men, obviously, but it's interesting because your upbringing, you do hate men a little bit.
I mean, he is
hates a bit too far.
No comment. All my friends are women.
Wow.
Or non-binary people.
I guess I just learned I'm not your friend, but that's fair.
No. And Danny. Danny's the one.
Well, I love you, Kate. I mean, you're always doing all this shit for me. You guys got to understand. I give this girl so many notes. She never gives me any grief, never argues. I'm just like, good God. I'm always like, thank you so much. You must hate me, but you never give me any grief. You're the best.
Trying to make the best, the best content possible. And there's always room for improvement.
So, okay, but this is really juicy, though. I mean, we can move off this if you don't want to go there. But, it's pretty intriguing to me that I am, your only kind of guy probably that you even interact with. Is that the case? On a regular basis?
No, not at all.
Okay,
No, I there's There are men in my classes. All my professors are men.
All of your professors are men. Okay.
Yes. Well, yeah.
But you don't. But you don't have any male friends, and so your perception is that men are, monstrous, or like what? Yeah, because like you've never been close with a man. That seems fair to say. Is that fair to say? That's really interesting to me.
I had male friends in high school.
Okay.
I worked as a lifeguard for a bunch of years, and most of my friends a lot of my friends on the beach were guys. I guess in undergrad I was pretty much only friends with women too.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we can move on. I'm just intrigued, because that's how you were raised, and now, yeah, I mean, it's no problem. I'm just curious about it.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like a lot of men's attitudes. I feel like they're just...
Ooh, there we go. Now we found it.
Like, think that they're great for no reason, often.
I agree with that shit. You're so right. And by the way, I was one of those men. I thought I was such hot shit, when I was 23, 24. And then I was like, oh, I'm actually a piece of shit. But now I've come around and I'm like, I'm actually pretty good at what I do, Mm-hmm. So maybe it's a cycle, and then now someone will need to come around and be like, no, you're actually shitty, and then I'll have to start over again at 34 maybe. But yeah, unchecked ego, hubris, this is very male.
I feel like it's more common for men to be like sexist or homophobic or something, and if people like make those kind of comments, I'm just like, I'm done. I'm not talking to you anymore. I don't need the energy in my life.
And you feel like you're running into that even now in medical school among educated people?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Really? Oh my God, that's so disappointing.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, there are horror stories. Like, I don't even know. Some of these guys, like the way that they'll talk about like cadavers or something, it's just like, grow up.
Really? Like about a cadaver, about a dead body?
Like literally when we were in the reproductive unit, like people will like make it sexual, and it's like, why? That no need for,
They'll be like, she's sexy about a dead body.
Okay, no.
Or like, what will they say?
It's more of a like saying negative things, not okay. That I think that would. I don't know what would be worse, but I have never heard anyone say that about a cadaver.
But I'm trying to understand, are they being like, they're saying sexist things like she should lose some weight, or like, are they saying like, I'm just trying to understand, like, is it that there's a lack of decorum, or are they saying like homophobic things like slurs or something like that? Like what do you feel isn't being respected in the, when you're all around a dead fucking body, which is like, I can't even handle that.
Yeah, no, people will make comments about the cadaver's weight because I don't know. The size of a cadaver does really impact a dissection and like how difficult it is, not only physically but also like to find, you have to like identify nerves and arteries and stuff, and there are different challenges with smaller cadavers and with larger cadavers.
Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to go into too many details.
No, but I'm not like, it's not like I can't handle it. I'm just like, oh damn, this is getting real. Let's go.
Yes, I don't want to freak people out.
Well, we got a trigger warning at Kate. You're talking about dissecting people, and then you're calling them cadavers, which I think is interesting to me. There's like a conceptual separation.
Well, because they are cadavers. They like.
Well, they were people though, right? Like you're already.
Yes.
Like corpse, we would say corpse maybe, and then the civilians would say corpses, But you're like, they're cadavers. Fuck them.
Well, because they are cadavers. No, okay. All of the cadavers, all of the cadavers that like students are dissecting are people who went through a very long process to get their body to be donated. There are a lot of steps and a lot of paperwork and like a lot of things to be signed, and like they have to be fully aware of the whole process, of everything like that's going to happen. Yeah. And consent to a lot of, different parts of it, like how their bodies are going to be preserved, and like that how they're going to be buried because all of the cadavers are cremated together. And so like there's a lot of things that go into that.
Right.
And, you know, like these people are consenting so that their bodies can be a learning tool and really like a model to show, you know, students like how the body works. And we don't know anything about them personally, like, you know, on like movies or whatever, they'll like Grey's Anatomy or whatever, they will like name the cadavers or whatever. That is very frowned upon and not something that you should do, because like these are real people. They do have an actual name, and you know, kind of like doing any of that is all seen as very disrespectful. And so I think it is, you know, kind of better to refer to them as a cadaver than
Interesting. Yeah. So there's a coldness because, I get it. It's almost like you're being cold and dehumanizing them because they were a human, but you don't really want to get into that. Does that make sense?
And it's like, I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
And it's not my place to like, I don't know.
So when you're talking about other people
them.
making these inappropriate comments, is it violating this etiquette? Like they might they'll be like, this is Julie, so you don't like that. And you're like, don't call her Julie. She's a cadaver.
Yes.
But you're saying it's sexist too.
Oh, yeah, no, because people, I guess not so much with the cadavers, but like when we're studying, you know, the reproductive unit, just some of the guys will just make all these jokes about literally everything that you're learning.
In class.
Yes, okay, we were learning about some illness or whatever, and there's like a picture of, it was a birth defect, and there's a picture of a baby, like a literal baby, like in the hospital who had some sort of birth defect and had, you know, something wrong near their penis. And these guys were literally like making jokes about how this picture of a child like has a small penis.
Okay, so you set this up as being not funny, which is making me laugh, but it's not funny. I would definitely not be laughing in a context where I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting. I think one thing that I've heard about like cops, for instance, is like it's so horrible that humor is like a coping mechanism, you know, and but that also maybe is unhealthy because you're sort of like, yeah, you're still making it humorous, and it's like, well, it's not humorous. Like somebody died, mate.
I mean, I think that there's different lines. Like, I mean, if it was like a situation where you're talking to like someone in the general public, like whether you're saying if it's like a police officer, if it's like a doctor, like obviously that's inappropriate, but like you can still make jokes and it be funny, but the joke, like the butt of the joke has to be about, you know, either like, you know, making a joke about like yourself or about like the actual material that you're learning or something like that. It can't, like the joke cannot be about an actual person, especially, you know, someone that is giving something up to help you, whether it be, you know, like their body as a cadaver or like, you know, a picture to be in a medical book or something like that. You can't be making a joke where this, you know, person who cannot defend themselves, who is only in this position because they're helping you, you know, is like the reason why the joke is funny.
I think you're right. I think that's great. And I'm happy that you're going to be a doctor. And one day I hope you're in a position where you could save my life. But then you're like, actually, if we let this guy die, he's got like a lot of good organs in there and we can save like 10 other people. And then you're like, let's actually go with that. You know, he's got the podcast, but Sarah will hold it down and we'll save 10 people with all his organs. Well, that's great. Thanks for giving us some medical tales. And I always like texting with you. Or I'll be like, hey, there's a TikTok done. And you're like, sorry, I was just around what did you say? Would you say it was a head?
Yeah. This semester I'm working on an independent study with one of my professors. Where like when you do your first dissections, it can be kind of difficult to find like all of the vessels or like nerves or like, you know, structures that you want to see. And so when students do that, like especially on the face and either superficially or deep, like those things are very delicate and it's like a difficult thing to dissect. And so I am making, you know, these like pretty dissections that I'm taking a really long time on, so that when the students are in the course, the gross anatomy course where they're doing their first, kind of cadaver dissections, they are able to then they'll have the head that I'm working on to, see what it's supposed to look like what all the little things are that they might not have time, or just because they haven't done it before might not have the skill to dissect out.
So you're doing the super fine cut, you're really getting in there, getting all the details. You're this guy has dandruff or whatever. I'm thinking about my medical problems
I wouldn't
now.
know about dandruff, but
right, you're getting under.
No, often my free time is me sitting in a cadaver lab with a decapitated head.
That's so
nerves.
Awesome and crazy. Post that shit on Insta story.
That.
No, you obviously can't. So wait, okay, final question. There's a lot of cadavers in your life and in the medical. I guess my question is, average medical student, how many cadavers do we need?
Some of the medical students don't even do a cadaver dissection. They will just learn based on other people's dissections, or some schools don't even have a cadaver program because it's very expensive and, difficult to run, has a lot of legal things with it. And I personally have done a lot of dissections because I've worked as a TA for a bunch of different dissection classes, and also through my independent study I've worked on 4 or 5 samples, so just adding on top of that. When you're in a class, you're in a group with 5 people, so I guess 1/5 of a cadaver at most.
Okay.
Is,
so you're kind of divvying.
Yeah, because you do it with other people, so you're you'll have a list of things that you want to find, and then you'll be working in whatever area trying to identify muscles, nerves, vessels, that kind of thing.
Wild. It's crazy. And they're treated, right? They're not smelly. They're in formaldehyde or some shit.
I wouldn't say that it smells great.
Yeah.
I have a specific outfit that I will wear leaving cadaver lab, because in cadaver lab you have scrubs. My school provides scrubs for cadaver lab.
Yeah.
They're not scrubs, they just look like normal scrubs, but you're not supposed to wear them in any clinical setting because the majority of our cadavers are fixed with formaldehyde, and that is a carcinogen. You don't want that around really anyone, so
yeah,
bad for me. But those scrubs are specific to be worn in cadaver lab, and then I will change at school and then come home, and the clothes that I wore that did not go inside the cadaver lab, this is just from the building to home, will smell like cadavers. So I have I have special clothes that I will only wear when I'm leaving cadaver lab, because it the smell it doesn't smell great. You kind of get used to it. They're all of the majority of our cadavers are fully fixed with formaldehyde. Some of them are kind of old. So the people in my spring class weren't alive during COVID, so they're not.
Oh wow!
They didn't just die.
Oh, so some of the cadavers are kind of they've been dead for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but with the way it's fixed, they're not decomposing or anything. Some things require you to have different levels of fixedness, and they use different chemicals and stuff to do that with. I took one class where they were fresh cadavers, and
ooh, nice fresh cadaver. Take a whiff of that. Don't actually smell it. You get cancer. What a crazy world, Kate. I mean, I really do hope you're my doctor. Let me say this. I definitely want the doctor who's done some cadavers. I want someone who's been in there. Yeah. They're comfortable. They know what they're doing. I don't want this, oh, I learned from someone else's cadavering. No. You get in there. You do it yourself. Go into the cadaver lab. Figure it out. Yeah. So there's a stereotype that my dad has actually said that a lot of surgeons are narcissists. Is there anything there? What's your take there? Men, you said you don't like men. A lot of men are surgeons. There we go.
Yeah, definitely. That I want to be a surgeon. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the rule that all surgeons are like that.
Of course.
I hope not anyway. But I mean, I think that there is some truth to some people definitely, but not. I mean, you have to have a certain amount of confidence. Go in there and be confident in your own skills to be able to cut open a live person.
I mean, I certainly understand it. It's godlike, you're going into someone's body and taking out something that's inside of them, usually the point of surgery, I guess.
Well, I mean, it depends on the type of surgery. A lot of them could be just adding something in, or
yeah, sure. I guess what would you install on someone, a little heart thing?
Yeah, like a valve replacement,
Yeah.
something like that, like some sort of stent. You can put things in people's vessels so that they, just to make sure that they're like open, like their blood vessels. You can, like a hip
Yeah.
replacement.
Yeah. I guess you're right. A lot of it is putting stuff in. All right, guys. Well, Kate is a lesbian. She's a medical student, and we have a juicy episode for you today. Our second story of the day, AITA for not sharing my gayness. But first, it's AITA for studying potentially gross subjects in public. I honestly don't think I'm the asshole here, but some of the friends don't think the same. I'm a medical student, so a lot of my subjects are things like pathology, anatomy, etc. The notes I use have images of different diseases, and some anatomy notes have images of cadavers for reference. There's no nudity, and I don't have it on a huge screen or anything. It's just on my laptop in the corner of the cafe. So what happened is I left my laptop on while I ran to the front to get a coffee. When I got back, a mother was beside my table with her kid. She told me I shouldn't have such inappropriate material open like that. I told her she shouldn't be looking onto other people's screens and just went back to studying. She persisted and told me her kid could have seen the pictures there. I don't really think that's my problem, so I ignored her. I told a friend later, and she told me I should have closed my laptop when I left and that it was a pretty gross to study stuff like that in a place where people eat food. I just want a third opinion. AITA.
Yeah, I thought this one was kind of interesting, but he said what I think is important to note is that OP says that he's in the corner, studying on the laptop. So presumably, like, the laptop would be facing the wall.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you should definitely try to hide it. I don't think you got to just be like, oh, we'll stop looking at people's screens. Like, if you're if you're at Starbucks and you're in an exposed position and you're studying for your plastic surgery final looking at pictures of tits, like, you do have to, like, recognize that that's not really imagery that, like, people are going to want to see at the cafe. Children could see it. So, like, I'm not really for this notion that it's like, oh, you shouldn't be looking. It's like, well, yeah, but you're also kind of showing. You're in public.
Yeah, I agree generally, but I think in this situation, medical textbooks, at least like the majority of them, I'm often looking at them, are like, he's not looking at the type of book where it's just pictures of cadavers. Like, it's like mostly text and then like small pictures on the side where it's like, it'd be like a diagram here, there, and then like a cadaver here, there, like a live person, like different things on it. Like, it's studying just straight up like cadaver based things where the thing that you're going to study is like only cadaver pictures.
Sure.
Then I would say don't do that in public, like, definitely. But because he is just, kind of going through like a textbook, those kind of things for aimed at medical students are going to be talking about, like, they're going to have words in it. Like, it's going to be like talking about whatever illness or thing that they're learning about, and then like have like a lot of diagrams with it. Like, and really, like, honestly, there's in those kind of books, like, it's usually more like alive people and diagrams on them. It's not like he's not studying from the type of book where it's just full, like, just pages of cadaver images.
But like, okay, but Kate, I feel like you have obviously, I would say, a superhuman. You're the exact kind of person we want, right? We don't want someone like me who's going to be like, oh no, oh, I can see his heart. Like, I'm going to freak out. You, on the other hand, are like holding a human head, like letting the blood drip all over your face. I have no idea how medicine works. But
there's
very
not
comfortable.
Blood in cadavers, really.
There's no blood in the cadavers. Okay. You're letting the formaldehyde get all over your face, whatever. No. But like, I guess he's saying there's no nudity, and that's the example I gave. But like, I do feel that, some people are, if my mother sees like a drop of blood, it's like, that's a no from me, dog. Like, she is not going to watch that shit. Some people get highly triggered by stuff like this. I actually don't. I can handle gore. It's really, for me, it's like, when people eat deodorant and stuff, that shit freaks me out so much. I don't know why. Like, when people eat their own hair and stuff like that, that makes me gag, and like, I can't even think about it. But I do think, like, this person said they usually keep it in the corner. And I mean, I do feel like I'm not ready to press charges, but I do feel like if you're at a cafe and you leave your laptop screen open, and even if there's a small picture of, say, a heart or an open body, there's no nudity, but it's like bloody, you should lean the screen down. Like, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It takes no time.
I think it really depends on the actual like logistics of the situation, because if the OP is like in a corner, it's only on the computer screen, like it's a small image, and it's like not like it's like the computer's kind of angled like away from people.
Yeah,
I don't like, they're even like if there's nudity or whatever, it's like it's not something that is sexual. Like they are studying and learning how like this knowledge is like going towards them like helping other people, and is like I do think that it would be rude and kind of out of place to just have your cadaver images on your computer and you're got the brightness all the way up and you're in the middle of the store and everyone can see your screen. But it doesn't really sound like that's the case. I mean, and because this also happened when he walked away, I feel like that's kind of weird too. Like, why? I don't know. If I was walking away from my computer, I would like hide it a little bit more.
Of course you.
Also, because I don't want someone to steal my computer.
Of course. I think we agree here. I mean, I know that if you were doing this, you would, and you had a freaking corpse on the screen, a cadaver, excuse me, you would put the screen a little down, or like, you know what I mean? Like tilt your laptop down. You don't have to even close it. I'm just saying. Yeah. But nonetheless, I really think we have no charges to land here because, yeah, the mom saw, it looks like she is kind of trying to peek to see, but then she's like getting mad at OP for something that didn't even happen. It's like, yeah, what if your kid saw? Well, what if he didn't? So like, obviously it wasn't that big of a deal. AITA for studying potentially gross subjects in public. Honestly, I'm not even ready to pin charges on the mom. She was being annoying, but like, it's a fair enough concern. Like, I think I'm a little bit, look, I think you're being very mature about this, which is great, and I'm so happy you're a medical professional, but like, you say they're not sexual images, but like a guy seeing boobs in a breast cancer context isn't necessarily going to be like, those are going to help society get better. Ooh. They're going to be like, titties. Like, so it's not, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get to choose how it's going to be interpreted, and I think that like, you should exercise discretion. I mean, if
someone wants to like look at images of people with breast cancer and like get turned on by that, that's really their problem.
I'm just saying, no, not get turned on, but I'm saying if they saw the boobs on the screen, or whatever it would be depicted, they're not necessarily going to have the maturity to be like, those are for the betterment, right? They're going to be like, oh, boobs, oh, like, Nonetheless, I think we're on the same page here.
Yes, I would definitely say, like, in that scenario, if you're looking at, pictures that do depict nudity, use discretion just to avoid, any sort of, like, I don't, this guy's just trying to do his studying. I'm sure he has a lot to do. He doesn't need to be fighting with some random people in Starbucks.
Right.
But I don't know. I think that nudity doesn't have to be sexual, and, like, we don't, it's, like, very sexualized, like, I don't know, I guess in America or...
It's true, you're right. You're more mature than the country. We know that. AITA for studying potentially gross subjects in public. I think we do agree, though. No assholes here.
No. Yeah, I agree. No assholes.
Next up, it's AITA for not sharing my gayness. I, 20F, like to work part-time jobs while studying. At my last part-time job, my colleagues found out that I was a lesbian because they kept trying to set me up with this guy that liked me at work. I'm not the stereotypical masculine lesbian. I'm very feminine, long hair. I love skirts and dresses, makeup, and all that jazz. When it was finally found out, a lot of female colleagues started avoiding me because they thought, I'm just scared you like me. I'm not into that life. Which was really BS because first, I have standards. Second, that's just a horrible assumption. Then along with this, one of the men at work, who is twice my age, by the way, started fetishizing me and being really creepy. He'd say stuff like, quote, so do you watch lesbian porn? I watch it all the time. What's your type? How do you do it in the bedroom? And a lot more graphic things I don't want to get into. Basically, to put it simply, work became a place I didn't want to go, and I quit a while later because management refused to help. So at present time, I started this new job, and so far it's been great. I found out someone at work is gay, and he's a really nice dude, and we've been getting along great. It ended coming up out a while later to everyone else that I'm also gay, and they asked me why I never told them. I explained what happened at my old work, and I was scared of it happening again because I really wanted to make friends. Then some of them got offended, saying that I'm an asshole for assuming they're worse than them and that they'd never do that, but how am I supposed to know? I do feel bad for making the assumption, but I really didn't want to have to quit another job due to people being mean and creepy. One of them hasn't been talking to me since this happened, and I'm starting to feel like I made the wrong move. AITA for keeping my sexuality a secret from the majority of my colleagues.
Yeah, so I mean, you're never the asshole for not coming out to people. Like, no queer person owes anyone else to that, like, that information.
100%. I mean, it's no one's business, right? And it's no one's business also for straight people. It's like, it's not relevant to the workplace, you know? It's just not. There's no reason to bring it up.
They, like, well... I mean, I don't know. I'm of multiple minds about this because really no matter where you go, like everyone will assume that you're straight. Like, you know, you meet a new person, they're like, oh, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a wife? Like, you know, they might say something like that. Okay, they just assumed that you're straight. And so now it's like, if you say that to someone who's queer, it's like, okay, so now you have a few options. Do you just like say, oh, no, or do you like then just out yourself right then? And as much as it's nice to say, oh, well, that doesn't like come up at work. Like it just does because people will just, you know, talk about relationships or talk about dating or anything like that. And someone doesn't feel safe in that situation or for whatever reason, they just don't want to come out. Like they should never be forced to or judged for not coming out sooner. Especially this person has, you know, this past experience, which I mean, I would assume would be a reason why a lot of people, you know, would in that same situation, you know, would not come out.
I feel terrible. Honestly, I'm having a flash of guilt. When I was in college, I was like an intern and I always try to ask this girl to lunch and I think she indulged me once, but I didn't know she was a lesbian, but she didn't want to go out with me and she kept trying to turn me down, but I wasn't taking no for an, cause she was being indirect and she was doing that thing of like, oh, I'm busy today. And so I didn't know I was 21 or I was less than that. I was 20 and I feel guilty. But then I eventually came to understand she was a lesbian and now I feel like an asshole reading this. Anyway, just confessing, I guess I'm hoping this works like Catholicism. If I get that out, I'll be clean. But yeah, I really do hate the person who is like, you didn't tell us. How dare you assume the worst? It's like, you unempathetic piece of shit. Obviously we've talked a lot about how hard it is to be in the closet. And I just really, that is such a self-centered fucking reaction. I just know people who do this where it's like, where I'll be like, yeah, something bad has happened to me. And they're like, why didn't you tell me earlier? And I'm like, that's why. Because you're mad at me for not telling you. This is my problem that I'm having. I'm opening up to you. Now you're mad at me because I didn't tell you. Fuck you. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, especially with something like coming out, you know, these people made like a slightly homophobic comment or something earlier. Like that's something that the OP would notice and be like, oh, okay, so I know that, like, you know, trying to clock how these people, like what their thoughts are and like, you know, kind of where they're at. And that would be something that the person making the response, like, you know, whatever comment probably doesn't remember, but that would be something that the OP would know and would, you know, be like, okay, that person might not be safe to come out to.
So here's a question. I'm having this thought. There are a lot of straight people, and I've actually done this. I believe I have done this. I think I stopped though, because somebody called it out, but it's like, straight people will refer to their SO as their partner. And I'm like, is that good for gay people because they're like, am I straight? Or is it kind of like, no, you're kind of co-opting, you know what I mean? Is that normalizing that you're allowed to be discreet, so that's good? Or is that straights co-opting gay culture, so it's bad? How do you feel?
I mean, I don't have particularly like strong opinions on this. Like, I don't think that it's really like that important in the grand scheme of things, like with other issues and other words that people say. But like in general, I don't really like it when straight people say that, because whereas before straight people started saying that all the time, like someone could just say their partner, and then, whoever else that is there, like someone in the closet or whatever, would just, know, oh, okay, that there's someone like me here or whatever. With like straight people starting to use it, now it's just like, I don't know, it's like more confusing, I guess, because I personally don't like it, because I want to know if someone is gay, and I feel like that's like a nice discreet way to kind of come out to people. And then, if there's other queer people like around you, like they'll get the hint regardless of what the straight people are thinking about it.
So you want to know, you're just as hungry for the knowledge as the rest of us. We all want to know. We're nosy. If we know one thing.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like gay people want to know who else is gay. It's just like, oh, okay. Like, we have something in common.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
Yeah, no, of course. I totally get it. Makes sense. I mean, I really feel like we have nothing here. Top comment, Subs Rue writes, classic move by straight people, making it all about them. Definitely NTA. There's a good reason why so many gay people keep it a secret, and it's up to you when you feel comfortable talking about it to those around you. Yeah, I will say this. I thought this was interesting, and I still think about this, but I had a colleague who was like this, and we all assumed he was straight, but we also assumed it because he said it. He would talk about women with me, and he would talk about, even in a bro-ish way, kind of talking about having sex with women. And then one day it was like, change up. And he came out, and then he actually told me this, and I'm fascinated. He'd be like, yeah, I have had sex with some women. And I would be like, but how did that make you feel? And he's like, yeah. It's really like intriguing to me, that reaction. I've actually talked to a few gay men who've said something like that. Like, it's just a very funny thing to me, because I'm like, especially now because I've been single for so long, and I'm like, oh my god, having sex with a woman, it's like God, it's like divine, it's like incredible, it's like an angel touching your finger. But then they're like, yeah, women, it's fine, But you agree with me, right, Kate? As a lesbian, like,
Yes.
God, a woman is having sex with me. Oh my God, it's like incredible. Like, what is she doing? Ugh, I'm like so disgusting. I guess you're not disgusting, but I am. I'm like, ugh, look at this. AITA for not sharing my gayness. I'm saying big, not the asshole, and huge YTA for anybody. Just anybody who you reveal something to and they're mad at you for having withheld it. Fuck those people, especially when it's an issue like being gay, but like anything. It's so fucking obnoxious.
Yes, no, all these people at the office definitely seem like jerks.
What jerks? Hey, what was the thing, speaking of you being a lesbian, you warned me that I made some insensitive comment, and you were kind of my cancel insurance on something. I didn't even know you were a lesbian, or I forgot. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
but what was it? Yeah.
When you had we're having gay sex on your podcast, you were worried about it, but I don't think it was fine. You were asking me about, I don't remember exactly what it was.
No, it was more recent than that. It was something you said was offensive.
That. Ooh, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember exactly what it was.
It had to do with like, maybe was it that?
Oh, it was something about like how men interpret like lesbians and stuff like that. Like wait, you were saying that homophobia was worse for gay men like than it would be for like gay women. Yeah, and like while I don't want to like diminish anyone's experience or anything like that. Like, laws against gay men existing and like all of that is horrible, yes. But I feel like I'm just kind of like blanketly saying that like, oh, but with women, people just think it's hot, so it's like not that bad,
Yeah.
Is, really diminishing a lot of queer women's struggles, I guess, because as like a queer women, like you have not only the homophobia like of that, but also it's like wrapped up in a lot of sexism as well. And like no lesbian is a lesbian for male attention, and men thinking that it's hot like is homophobic and like disgusting. Like I don't want to hear that like is harmful in itself. And while some women may want that attention, but the vast majority of the queer community does not, and does not want to be sexualized for existing.
That's clarifying. And I was being ignorant, obviously, on a few levels. I think what I was alluding to is my own perception. Obviously, I've heard, many men in front of me, including at many points myself, been called the F slur, and yeah, I have seen the D slur be dropped on a woman. Well, I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sure I have. But I guess that was the disparity that I was coming from, my own perception, which is obviously, especially in grade school where this was kind of prevalent, that's what I was witnessing. So it was very ignorant and self-centered of me to state it as like a general truth. But what you're cueing me into, I think, is that being a lesbian or a queer woman, it's a lot of the assumption that you're straight too, that you play. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say, I don't know, like every identity and every type of presentation like comes with its own struggles and its own unique discrimination. But like a queer woman who presents in a masculine way can from my experience anyway, would be more likely to face maybe that kind of discrimination by being called a slur, whereas someone who's more feminine presenting might just like get called out like in a different way.
Well, and we're seeing it here in this situation too, where, and this is something I've never perceived, obviously, because I'm a man, that the female colleagues began to avoid OP just because she was a lesbian, which is just as juvenile as like the kind of grade school things like, oh
yeah, that's actually pretty common. Like there's the stereotype is that lesbians are predatory which really is rooted in the fact that men are predatory towards women. So like the whole idea of like liking or like being attracted to women is like made into this predatory thing because like just because of like patriarchy and things like that. So like that is, I don't know, it's a very like harmful idea that especially in older media like has been kind of like perpetrated, and it's not an uncommon thing for people to think, and very, very rarely, if ever, correct that your secretly gay friend has a crush on you.
Yeah. I mean, well, thanks for like informing. I'm sure since most of our listeners are women, they're more aware of this than me, but like I'd never heard that before, that lesbians are predators. So thank you for, I mean, not that you're I've never heard the stereotype that people think is true. Cancel myself. All right, guys. Well,
we got an interesting sound clip from that.
Yeah, don't clip that one out for TikTok. Please, Kate. Please, you're killing me. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up here on this one. AITA for allowing my terminally ill daughter to smoke and drink. Hello, I am the 42 father to a 16-year-old girl. Hello. About 3 months ago, we found out via the hospital that our daughter had a late-stage form of brain cancer, and were told that survival was not likely. We tried, but despite our best efforts, we found no improvement in the cancer. My daughter's aware. Recently, my wife was looking for a hair straightener. My daughter had borrowed and found a few grams of pot, a vape, as well as partially empty handle of Tito's vodka. When confronted, my daughter confessed to have been using the substances for about a month. At that point, she said that since she knew she wasn't going to survive past 18, she wanted to try these things socially and assured us she was being responsible with them. I myself am a user of these substances. Okay. As we live in a legal state, I do not vape, though I do smoke cigs, drink, and will occasionally roll myself a joint. Well, normally I would not want my children using these. I thought I could make an exception due to the circumstances. My wife, however, disagrees. She only drinks a glass of wine every now and then and dislikes nicotine and pot. We had a convo and came to the conclusion that she would be allowed to do these things under my supervision as long as they are from retail stores and dispensaries and not street dealers. Though my wife remains adamant she should not be doing them at all. AITA.
It's a tough situation.
Horrific.
But yeah, I mean, I think kind of generally with someone who is facing something like this, I think that you really have to take your cues from the patient, and it's like very difficult on the whole family, but it is, the patient is the one who is, really going through this, and it's their life that is sadly probably going to end soon. And I don't know, I'm really about patient autonomy, and what, like, in these kind of situations, like, whatever they want to do, I think that basically within reason, they as long as they're not hurting, someone else,
Yeah.
they should be able to do, like.
I'm very with you. I mean, I think that this is pretty straightforward, because it's like, okay, you're a parent, you have a child, your goal is to get them to 18, get them to whatever, get them to adulthood and raise them and prepare them for life. And you want to do things like make sure they don't become addicted to alcohol or use drugs. And obviously that's not going to be behavior that you would ever encourage in your household. And I think that's reasonable. But this changes the context, right? This is like you're no longer in a place where you're preparing them for a long life ahead of them. You're just not. And so it's really, isn't there a word here? Like, is that just what hospice is making people's last moments as good as you can?
Yep. Yeah. It's about end of life care, and a lot of hospice is, providing medications that will, alleviate discomfort, pain, things like that. I think it could be fair to say that maybe they should talk to the physician, and, just to ensure that with the alcohol or the marijuana, those are drugs. Maybe, like, if the mother's worried, like, maybe there's some sort of interaction there or something, like, just to make sure that there's, it's not gonna, I guess, make things worse. Not that, like, it seems like in the situation that there's no really making the condition worse, but just, I don't know, making sure that it's not making it, because some of those things can just, like, have bad side effects or something like that. But they're
Hangover.
being safe, buying from a dispensary for the, making sure that it's not like, some random kid's, like, thing that's, like, laced with something else, something like
K2
that.
or some shit.
I mean, I could totally understand not wanting the daughter to be, like, getting, like, blackout, like, every day. But from what the father was kind of describing, it seems like she was just having, like, a glass of wine or something like that. And with a lot of cancer treatments, marijuana can be helpful to alleviate nausea and things like that. And, there's, like, a good, not even just cancer, there's, like, a good number of things that marijuana helps with. And if it's something that makes her feel better, or, is something that she wants to experience before she passes, I think that, they should look to her and see what she wants, and, kind of, like, try to make that happen.
Yeah, I think in general, there's this phrase that I think applies so much across the board, which is that sometimes people don't really recognize that, like, death is more merciful than life, and I hear this come up with, like, pro-choice, and I hear it come up with euthanasia, where it's like, and in my view, I'm just like, look, if you're on your way out, obviously I think your doctor should, not encourage you to kill yourself. But, like, if someone like this was like, look, I want to be doped up and I want to have a great time on my way out, there's no risk for me to become addicted to something or whatever and just do whatever they want, because, like, this is it.
Yeah.
They're on their way out. Like, let them have a great time. I think it's kind of crazy to start to, she's being irresponsible. It's like, responsible to what? She doesn't have a life ahead of her.
Yeah. No, especially, like, with underage drinking specifically, like, it's like, your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. Like, it's like, I don't know, one of the main things against it. But if she has, like, brain tumors are not a great sentence to be given. And if, she's not even going to make it to see the effects of those, the negative effects of those kinds of things, then, why stress out about that? Kind of, like, let her live in the moment and do what she wants to do with what time she has left.
I think so. Makes a ton of sense to me. I mean, I think this is a no-brainer. I think this is obvious for anybody who's, in this case, palliative care. Is that fair? I looked this up. Mitigating suffering among people with often terminal illnesses. That's it. It's just like, you're suffering, dude. Make it less bad.
Yeah. No, really anything that you can do to get rid of suffering,
I'm with it. In this context, once it's terminal, come on. AITA for allowing my terminally ill daughter to smoke and drink. We agree. No assholes here.
I think that the mom should listen to her daughter and maybe be a little bit more open-minded, but I'm definitely not going to call someone with a dying child the asshole.
Yeah, mom's gonna mom, but she's not being that rigid. She's just like, she shouldn't be doing it, but fine, she can. Kate, this has been a blast. I've learned so much, and we talked a lot about cadavers, and what more could I really ask for at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning?
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much for all the work you do for the podcast. Thanks so much for joining me, and best of luck with all the medical stuff.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.